Well, happy Saturday, folks. The real Captain Kirk here. We're live from One Bethlehem Plaza here in downtown Bethlehem on a chilly day. Here's 2 May. Start of the retail Q2 here, quarter two for folks. Coldest in 3 years here, 6. Coldest in 41 years. Last year, hottest in 15. So anything but warm here this weekend. Got a cute, smarter robot here. Again, more about this little guy here in the next month or so. But again, so right now we'd ask the robots, tell me about spring weather and impact on seasonal sales. We call this our power of 1 degree, how every degree of temperature change year over year impacts the seasonal sales and everything you buy in the stores, really anywhere. So again, let's key in on some of those factors here. So today, on a national scale, 2 May, nationally is 8.3 colder than last year, making it the coldest May 2nd in 21 years. So 8.3 times our power of 1 degree. So air conditioners, probably it's in the 50s here today. We're not thinking air conditioners, 80s last year. Might have thought about air conditioners last year, but way down for that category. Obviously not a lot of demand right now. Flowers move about 8% for every degree warmer. So again, down for those. So not to say that there's not some demand, but it just, again, way down from last year. If it was in the 80s or in 70s, we were out doing all that stuff last year. Things even like allergy medications, lettuce, 2% for every degree warmer. So again, this is just how we quantify weather and sales and do this a year ahead for our clients. Look at the weekends here. We've had a wholesale change here since about mid-April here. It's gone into this colder pattern. So these bars are year-on-year temperature changes. Reds were hotter there for the beginning of April, and then just the bottom kind of fell out. Every weekend since nationally has been cooler. April 17th, the 24th, 26th was the coolest in 3 here. This weekend, 1 through 3 May, coldest in 21 years nationally, driest in 5. Mother's Day weekend, not as extreme, coldest in 4 years, still dry, and mid-May, coldest in 5 years. So again, kind of a cool, dry pattern. Dry is good for store traffic. Cold's not good for seasonal sales. So again, it's a mixed bag here. A big change here happening, though, under the ocean here is this El Nino rapidly developing. This was La Nina back on 9 November. So you can see the cold, below normal water temperature blue. Again, we're looking below the surface of the water here by several hundred feet. Looking from all the way from Central Australia, Hawaii in the middle, California on the end, and Ecuador on the far right. Look at the change now. It's just crazy here. So this is why there's hype, and actually probably not too much hype here about a major El Nino. This is 6 degrees C, these brown waters here. So as this warm water gets to the surface, it will cool, just evaporative cooling. So you're not going to see 6C. That would be the El Nino of all time. But very likely we're going to get to at least +2 at the surface here. So that's a very strong El Nino, going to be for sure a top 5. There's certainly a chance here that we break the record here. There's no doubt about it. I think that was back in the 1800s. We had one of the strongest El Ninos ever recorded here. So definitely potential for a strong El Nino. And that'll definitely make the pattern get wetter and wetter here as we get into as the atmosphere respond to that, maybe more towards summer, fall, for sure fall, winter. Looking at wildfires here, they're off the scale right now. We've got 84% above average here in terms of fires, 1.8 million. 24,000 plus active fires here. So the worst in 10 years. This will be a problem in the west, getting some relief for the fires in the southeast. Look at the severe weather day. We added about 77 tornadoes, but the big winner was hail. 557 cases of hail, 556 cases of wind. So hail is kind of off the scale here, both in terms of last year and above average. All categories are really above average. Just tornadoes down 19% versus last year, and winds cases down 15% versus last year. But an active season, just not quite as extreme as last year. 4-day outlook here, again, doesn't show a little bit of Florida there. Got this front segging south. Some activity, maybe next week in the heartland, Ohio Valley, but not as extreme here as this past week. Looking at last week here, world summer here ending today here in the U.S. It was a colder week for sure, 5.4 colder, coldest in 3, 8th coldest in 41, so below average national temperatures. Hot days were down, least in several years, still slightly above average, and 11% wetter than last year, 15th wettest in 41 years. Still cold in Canada, wet across the parts of Europe, China, Brazil, India, quite wet as well. So maps, big map here is trends versus last year, and inset maps are trends versus average. Look at this week, all important week prior to Mother's Day, same old trend here, cold east, warm west. A little misleading here because we're blending the really, really hot temperatures in the northwest area with the colder temperatures here. But nationally, 2.5 cooler than last year, coolest in 3 years, 12th coolest in 41 years, below average. Hot days down about 15%, least in 7 years, and rainfall down nationally 31%. But again, the wet spot's going to be there in the the Midwest Ohio Valley, Northeast, and parts of the deep South here. So, not that we'd like to see really hot, dry weather. Is good for Mother's Day sales, but a little bit of a downer trend here for the holiday weekend. Look at next week, getting us into mid-May already here. Heat expands in the west, and the cold in the east is not as extreme. We'll see. Models always been struggling here with the pattern shift here, but 1.1 cooler nationally than last year, coolest in 3 years, 6 warmest in 41 years, but again, tale of two halves. Map inset left there is the trends versus last year, so eastern half is much, much colder than this time last year when it's quite hot. Hot days down 45% versus last year, least in 5 years, still above average, slightly above average. And rainfall down about 43%, driest in 4, 11th driest again, but wet in the east and even the southeast. They'll take it. Desperately need some rain for the drought-plagued southeast. Just aggregating the 3 through 16 May period here now on a world scale. General theme is hot west U.S., cold eastern Canada, eastern U.S., warm in Brazil, moderating some extent across the northern Europe, warmed for southern Europe. Again, rainfall here, again, kind of stormy eastern half of the country. Even Brazil, southern Brazil, some of the crop regions in the western part of Brazil are getting some rain, but dry in the eastern part of Brazil. And again, across for Europe, looks like a lot, but generally slightly below average. So, folks, again, don't forget you can get this in your email inbox every day, every Saturday, late afternoon. So just weather360.com, newsletter, captains-log, subscribe. And again, it's free to anyone that wants to get it. Have a great week. We'll talk to you this time next week.